I talk to painters every day who are serious about their art, whether they want help going full-time or simply want to make portraits that they can be proud of. And while I often focus conversations with these painters around defining goals or setting up a professional level practice to improve, or how to turn all of this into a body of work, today I want to talk about 5 signs that you may not be ready to take this leap and what you can do about that. And if you get through this video and you know that you want support to make sure that you reach your biggest goals for your art, and the items that I describe in this video don't apply to you, that is awesome. I would love to hear from you if that is the case. So if you would like to work together with me, you can check out the link in the description to find out more about what it's like to work with me, as well as apply to see if we are a fit to work together. All right, let's talk about the first red flag that means you probably aren't ready to start focusing on reaching your big painting goals yet. And that is that you are new to oil painting or you are still working on basic drawing skills. Now, obviously, these two things are distinct from one another, but I'm going to categorize them similarly. And I'm going to kick off by talking about why this isn't appropriate if you're new to oil painting. And of course, on this channel, I am speaking as an oil painter directly to oil painters. So if you're wanting to go full-time and oil painting isn't your medium, or you have big goals and oil painting isn't your medium, this doesn't apply to you. But then again, most of the things on my channel probably don't apply to you. So let's assume that for the sake of this argument, you really want to reach your big goals for your artwork in oil, but you're still new to it as a medium. In this case, what I find is really most helpful is to find a course or to go ahead and put a practice in place where your number one priority is just familiarizing yourself with the medium, learning what it's like to paint wet into wet, what materials you like, what processes and techniques that you like to use to layer paint on the canvas, what the quirks are about this medium, and that just requires time and repetition. And it's really useful to set aside a dedicated space for this in your life before you dive into trying to reach really big goals. That's not to say that they can't happen in quick succession, but I would say that it is really essential to go ahead and tackle this first. Similarly, if you want to paint realistically, but you are struggling to create realism or capture likeness when drawing people with something like pencil or charcoal, we need to go ahead and get you some practice just capturing likeness and getting accurate drawing skills first. If you aren't really able to get a level of realism that you're proud of in something like pencil or charcoal, it's going to be pretty difficult to do that in oil painting. So for this first red flag, I would say, finding a course or setting aside some dedicated time to be intentional with your practice and get to the place where you're comfortable with oil and you have a really solid foundation with drawing skills, this is essential. All right, the next red flag that I want to mention is that you don't know any living artists whose work you want to have inspiring yours. For any big painting goal, whether it's appearing in a show, whether it's booking your first commission, whether it's going full-time, whether it's having a body of work that you're proud of, we need to be able to have a really clear idea in our minds of what that work looks like. And for most of us, that work is going to involve some contemporary influences. So on this channel, I talk a lot about artists like Sargent and Sorolla, and it's great if those artists are going to be influences in your work. But chances are you're also really influenced by some contemporary painters. And if you can't actually name any contemporary painters, that tells me that you probably haven't spent enough time just diving into the art world to really be fully prepared to tackle your goals in a professional way. So making sure that you are regularly engaging with artists whose work that you like, you know who they are, you've seen that work in person, and you've probably done some learning about those artists and how they work. This is really going to set you up for success in multiple ways, not only because it's going to enable you to become that much more specific in your vision for your goal, but also because being immersed in the art world is an essential part of making it as a master level artist, whether your goal is to be a full-time professional or not. If this is you, I find that using something like Instagram or Pinterest to not only identify the painters you might already be loosely familiar with and put names to their work, but it can also help you to find other similar artists who might really inspire you. And then of course, if you don't want to do this online, actually traveling to galleries and finding out about the artists represented by those galleries is so incredibly valuable. The third red flag that suggests that you aren't yet ready to try and reach your big painting goals is that you're looking for a shortcut. Now, this one is pretty tough because there are more efficient paths to reaching a goal. Some people will simply get their work to a masterful level faster than others. But I think the mistake is that we think that this comes in the form of a shortcut, or that if we do one simple trick, you are going to be able to work on a master level. And the reality is that rather than there being a shortcut, what's really true is that reaching mastery takes a tremendous amount of work and consistency and practice no matter who you are. Some people are better set up to achieve that more quickly because they have fewer distractions, or they can dedicate more time to their craft, or because they have instructors who are really great at helping them to avoid exercises or pursuits that might be a waste of time. I think a very simple example of this would be if you really want to learn to paint loosely, it might not be a super useful way to spend your time for you to dive into like an abstract painting program. It might be wonderful and you might really enjoy it, but that's probably not the most time efficient way for you to build the skills that you need for loose or expressive realism, for instance. So if you really do want to achieve mastery, know that it's going to take hours and hours and hours on every single skill that you need to build. And I don't just mean like a few hours and then you're done. I mean like on a weekly basis, you are going to be pouring yourself into refining these techniques and keeping your skills sharp. And this brings me to the fourth red flag, which is you're hoping that someone else can motivate you to get to this place. I think one of the most difficult things for me to hear when I speak with a painter who is making really great work, and I know that I can help them to make the kind of work they want to make or achieve in their career what they want to achieve, the toughest thing for me to hear is that they just haven't painted in 6 months and they're hoping that I can be an accountability partner or I can somehow motivate them to do the work. And while, yes, having accountability can be a really helpful short-term solution, having someone who's emailing you or texting you constantly, asking you if you finish this painting, this is not the sustainable long-term solution that's going to enable you to reach really big goals that take a substantial amount of time. And if this is you, if you're the painter who is hoping that mentorship means that somehow someone else is going to say the magic word and you are just going to want to paint every day, I would really recommend checking out something like Stephen Pressfield's The War of Art, or perhaps Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. These books are really great in terms of helping you to understand how you need to be able to motivate yourself, which is an essential skill for any high-level painter. And then the final red flag that you aren't ready to reach your biggest painting goals is that you need to reach your goal fast. And this also goes back to this idea of looking for a shortcut. Because, as I said, reaching a really high level with your craft of painting, this takes time. And if you say, ideally I am making a full-time living and replacing my salary within the next year, or something along those lines where you have honestly a pretty short timeline to accomplish a whole lot, that can be a whole lot of pressure. And not only that, but it's usually not enough time to actually give you the runway that you need. Because if we take that example of ideally you would be full-time with your painting career within a year, let's think about it. Well, first we want to build this career on the kind of work that you want to make, which usually means taking some time to work on skill building. Then we need to figure out how to help you to put all these skills together into a recipe that you can use to make a consistent product that you're proud of in the form of your paintings. Then we need to have time to turn this into a body of work. Then we need to really get the sales and marketing skills where they need to be. Can you see how trying to do all of this within a year is suddenly sounding like not enough time? What I found is really useful instead is breaking this down into shorter term or 90-day goals. And you can effectively use this to reverse engineer an ideal timeline for you that is going to be much more sustainable and put less pressure on you. That way you have something really exciting to work toward in the near term, but you aren't putting on so much pressure that you're putting yourself at risk of crumbling under that or burning out in the process. My journey to going full-time was about a 2-year process from the time that I really started getting serious about my craft after 20 years of honing it up until that point, all the way to building up the runway, building up the client base, and really trusting that I could do this full time. And I would genuinely recommend for any painter considering this that you give yourself at least a similar amount of runway for yourself. But whether you are looking to go full time or you are simply really excited to finally make work that you are proud of, if you don't suffer from any of the red flags that I talked about in this video, I would love to hear from you and see if I can help you to reach your biggest goals. So again, I have the link to find out more about working with me down in the description, as well as the link to apply to see if we are a fit to work together. And if maybe you recognize some of these red flags and you know that you have some more work to do, well, I hope that you will stick around because I would love to help you to reach your long-term goals. So if this is you, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any future videos. All right, until next time, happy painting.